if you're investing.
Investors will.
The podcast for all things real estate investing.
So, hey again, investor community. Welcome back to another episode of Investor One-on-One, where we talk to the leading investors and real estate figures nationwide. Today's guest is a powerhouse in real estate and finance with 25 plus years in banking and real estate. He's led a mortgage company, closed multi-million-dollar deals, and mastered international markets. He's also the CEO of BPM REIA, the only National REIA-approved chapter in South Florida, and he's helped hundreds of investors build wealth with expert guidance, proven systems, and hands-on trainings with his Next Million Mastermind. A top investor and mentor. Welcome, Anish. I appreciate you joining us in this episode.
Yeah, I'm super excited to be here.
Amazing. So it's truly a pleasure to learn more about you today and from you today. So let's get started with your story. Can you tell us more about your background, what led you into real estate, and more about what you do today?
Yeah, absolutely. So I grew up in New Jersey, being Indian. My parents were hoping I'd be a doctor and engineer, and I decided I did not want to be a doctor or engineer. Got a degree in finance, and really was in the banking world. And then I read that book, which everyone, if you haven't read it, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And I realized my dad was poor dad, and I was on the path of being poor dad. So I said, hey, you know what? I got to get into real estate, opened up my own mortgage company, and started really investing in real estate.
Amazing. So today you're the CEO of BPM REIA. You lead it. You guys are really into networking, and networking is huge in real estate. So for you, what role does networking play in gaining access to off-market opportunities when it comes to real estate?
Yeah, so networking is everything, right? So what I feel like sometimes, and I love technology. I know all the stuff that's happening with AI and all the great information, and yet it's still a people business. So what happens is there's a lot of people in the demographics that are not very good with technology. They still want to see face to face. And it's really building those relationships to make it easy for homeowners, partners, all the above. As you get older, what you're going to realize you're going to want less drama. And that's really a big difference. And sometimes I feel like the art of networking, people are missing out on it.
I agree. I couldn't agree more. So, you have a mastermind, you do BPM REIA, your whole life is around networking. How can an investor that's starting out build a strong network of professionals, meaning new contractors, agents, lenders, etc.?
Yeah, so I always tell everyone is you should go to your local REIA, the Real Estate Investor Association. If you go to nationalrea.org, those will be approved chapters all around the country, and go to as many meetups, meetings as you can. One of the things is I always, they'll have some great speakers at the events, and before the event starts, it's important to network. Just introduce yourself. It's okay if you're new, right? The idea is to meet as many people as you can. You'll gravitate to other people that may be new. You might find some people that are really experienced out there, and kind of latch on, ask the right questions. And more importantly, if you do ask the right questions, make sure you're into action, right? So you don't want to be just an information junkie and never using the things that you learned. And, small commitments lead to big ones.
You have a quite impressive resume when it comes to your real estate portfolio. For some of our new investors, what are the best way for a beginner to start building his real estate portfolio?
Yeah, so one of the things is you got to build a power team, right? So what people don't talk about is how many bad deals are out there. And what I mean by that, owning the REIA, we probably get, gosh, I'd say 4 to 6 calls a month of people getting into really bad deals. They're going to lose money, they're going to lose their deposit, or they did a rehab, and nobody ever brags about it, right? So I call it also FOMO, right? I don't want you to have the FOMO period because I have to get a deal, I have to get a deal. And the numbers are skewed, right? You only see what you want to see. And most importantly, you got to do your own due diligence. So whether it's realtors, other investors, unfortunately, sometimes they're only going to tell you part of the picture. So I always look at multiple exit strategies. What happens if things go wrong? The other thing I always tell people, you should always get a mentor. You're going to pay for it one way or another. Either you're going to pay with the time, you're going to lose money, or you're going to pay a mentor. So for me, I've done both, right? So I try to do it on my own, and I got my butt whooped, right? Made some mistakes. And now, even as well as I do, I spent about in the last 2 years between masterminds and mentors, close to $150,000. So I
Well,
do well, and I still keep growing. Also, some of the other things you may or not know. Also, I do also work with the professional athletic community. That is former NFL players. I am their expert on wholesaling and rehabbing. And what's really interesting, these NFL guys that, 6'8", 300 pounds, they want to get into real estate and they're scared just like the newbie. Anish, is it okay if I put $1,000? I don't want to put $1,000 down. And I always laugh because they're the 0.001% in their field and they all have the same fear. So when you're new, we've all been there.
that's amazing. Can you tell us more about your first deal?
Yeah, so I was a buy and hold guy. So as I was reading Rich Dad, Poor Dad, I started buying a lot of properties and I started crushing it. And, for you younger people, you might have heard the big recession in 2008. And I went from literally millions to losing everything. I was a fix and flip guy, I was a buy and hold guy. And the reason I lost everything was the properties were not cash flowing. It was a negative cash flow, lots of equity, market crashes, and now it's a domino effect. So I actually never heard of wholesaling, if you can believe it. Back then, YouTube was relatively new, social media was relatively new, and I had no idea you could actually put something under contract and sell it. So my first deal, I literally put $500 down. I had no intention of closing on the deal. I didn't think this wholesale thing actually worked. I actually even borrowed the 500 bucks and I wholesaled it for 2,000 bucks. I
Wow.
was so excited. So I know it sounds funny. I've done multiple wholesale deals well over 100,000. I'm still more excited about my $2,000 deal because I had no, first of all, I didn't think it would work. And also I 4X'd my money. So I know it's only 500 bucks. I 4 times it and I was like, wow, this is even possible. And because of wholesaling and rehabbing, it got me back to where I am now.
Wow, man, that's an amazing story. It's very inspiring, for new investors
Yeah.
to see where you started off and where you are today. And the whole football story, I would never think people who are 6'8", tackling each
Yep.
other.
It's actually insane. Even in 2 weeks, they're having their big event here in Miami. It's one of their biggest events. It's about 120 former NFL players. So
Wow.
you could imagine, and I am their real estate expert on short-term rentals, wholesaling, rehabbing. Again, you look at these athletes, some of them made millions and some didn't, right? So they're not buying a $5 million multifamily or they're not buying triple net lease. They made all their money in a short period of time and now they got to make it last. And they had that same fear of, am I doing this right? And the other good part about the NFL guys or these professional athletes, they're unbelievably disciplined, right? So if you tell them to do it, they're going to do it. So it's a different level. And as I said, I think it's just comical that they're afraid to put an offer on a house and is the market good? Is interest rates high? Is it low? What do I do? So it's the same fear that you and I would have, or a newbie would.
I appreciate you sharing this. Anyone watching this, they can see that, we all have the same mindset. We're all humans. We're all starting in a similar way. Continuing off that question, what are the top investment strategies you see working best in today's market? For example, fix and flips, buying and holding, short-term rentals.
Yeah, so I think they're all good. What I tell everyone, you got to find your niche, right? So here in South Florida, our wholesale numbers are bigger than most places around the country. The average wholesale deal, what we're seeing nationally, on is around 8 to 10,000. At BPM REIA, our students are averaging over 40,000. We've had over 6 deals, wholesale deals, over 100,000. I do like creative financing also. For newbies, pick one thing. I know there's a lot of great people out there teaching a lot of different things. The creative financing, if you're new to real estate, might be a little bit challenging because there's a lot of components. And if you don't fully understand it, how are you going to explain it to a homeowner that it's their first or second house? The other thing that I also notice, and as much as I love South Florida, we do have some trust issues here versus other markets out there. And so some of the sub two lease options may be a little bit more challenging than others. But my answer is I like it all, right? So I lend money. I lend also through my self-directed IRA. So I use my Roth IRA where I'm not paying any taxes. It's tax-free. So we always joke about the first job is to make money. The second is to keep it legally, meaning I'll only pay my share of ta fair taxes. So the answer is they're all good. Just be good at one thing.
Sure, that's some great advice. So you spoke a little bit about, South Florida investing here. Do you see South Florida prime market for real estate investing? And if not, what other states or cities do you see, going in a good direction that's worth investing? And in general, do you have any interesting insights that you can share with us about Florida? Because I know you guys are based here and you know
Yeah.
a lot about this market.
Yeah, so Florida, I mean, everyone loves it, right? So we're a little unique in South Florida as a melting pot. We do have a lot of money coming in from South America, Colombia, Brazil, as their you know, politics might be a little bit different. So they're trying to move money out. They do like South Florida because of the Latin flair. It does remind them of home. Obviously, the Europeans. I do stay away from the luxury market on the investing side. We do have multi-million dollar condos going up there. I'm just too worried because of speculation, right? So for me, I call it almost gambling, meaning I want to have control of what I can do. So if you're in a 200 unit building and the building gets done, and now all of a sudden some people, they need to liquidate, they're going to lower their price. So if you're on the 30th floor versus the 20th floor, you might take a beating, insurance, taxes. So I usually like staying in the single family range. I like to be under 5 or 600,000, especially on a fix or flip. Especially if I want the loans to be under Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, where there's more buyers at 3.5% or 5%. So I'm always looking at exit strategy. So mitigating my risk is number one. If you're looking for buy and holds, the game in South Florida is really appreciation. It's probably not going to cash flow very much. If you're thinking about cash flow, it's the Midwest, Indiana, Ohio, St. Louis. The challenge is the appreciation won't be that great, generally speaking. So, you might have bought a house in Ohio for, I don't know, 40 or 50 grand 5 years ago. It might be worth 55,000 today. And at the same time, you're still getting six, seven, $800 a month. Uh, I'm all for other areas. You just got to have a management team out there and good boots on the ground when it comes to it.
Exactly.
And the other insights that I've seen is always make sure you think about a rainy day. And what I mean by that is we're starting to see a lot of multifamily people in a lot of trouble because they did all their speculation at 3.5, 4% interest rates. And now interest rates are 7 or 8%. So their capital calls for our investors and syndication. So there is some movement in there that I think, unfortunately, some people are going to lose a lot of money on the syndications right now.
I agree. In every place you invest is going to be some of the pros, some cons, some pros, some cons. So
Yeah.
let's, for the next question, let's talk a little bit more about South Florida. Let's say an investor wants to start investing here. How can investors still find some profitable deals, in your
Yeah, so
opinion?
one of the things is you got to have good software. So there's a lot of great software companies out there. The one that we actually use is called REIAFacts.com. The founder is here from South Florida, and we're looking for motivated sellers. And what we're looking for motivation, we're actually list stacking. And what I mean by that is we're looking for people in pre-foreclosure, probates, behind on their taxes. You could even find code violations. So imagine they're out of state, behind on their taxes, pre-foreclosure. Oh, and by the way, they have a code violation, right? So as you start doing that, the list starts way up here, gets smaller and smaller and smaller. And if you get to them, you're going to actually get the deal. The other thing that we're seeing when I pulled up numbers this week in Miami-Dade County, there's close to 15,000 pre-foreclosures. Broward County is close to 10,000. Palm Beach is around 8,000. And only 2% are for sale. And when I say for sale, that means with an agent, right? So some people do a loan modification, some will go to foreclosure, some will sell. Also, what we found on the pre-foreclosures, 80% of them have equity. So those are 30-day closings. All you have to do is get a payoff. So they don't know that they have equity a lot of times, right? You've been behind on payments. what we've seen in the last 4 years, prices have gone up. So yeah, there's a lot of opportunity. When I do speak to other National REIA owners around the country, and I give them our numbers, and I always joke about it because they're like, Anish, it must be so easy in your market, right? And I crack up because when I talk to my members, everyone's like, it's so hard, there's so much competition. And for me, especially for newbies, if you're averaging $40,000 a deal, how does your life change, right? How many deals do you need to do to make a difference or an impact? And we're in that market right now.
Oh, those are some really interesting stats.
Yep.
What are some misconceptions about real estate investing that BPM REIA aims to correct?
Well, one of the things is that you need a ton of money, right? So I'd be able to do this if I had money. So at BPM REIA, we actually have a unique coaching program. I don't know anyone else that does this, where I put up 100% of the money for the deals and I profit share with you. So I'll take on the risk. For me, it's not really any risk. The other thing that's also really different that what we do, since it's my money and the money I raised, I'm willing to close on properties with code violations or liens, depending on the city. Some of the cities are easy to work with, some are not. And so we've been crushing it with those deals. Probate, same thing. There's a, we had a national speaker out of Arizona. It's not a good joke. But he always says, people come to Florida, it's God's waiting room, meaning, unfortunately, they come here to retire and then they move on, right? And so what happens is a lot of their heirs, their kids, they live in New York, New Jersey, Chicago. They're not going to magically become real estate investors, right? The other thing is people always think you need a ton of time. You just have to be efficient, right? And the third thing for me is this is not a get rich quick thing, right? For newbies, it's the same thing. The analogy I like using is remember when you got your driver's license, right? When I was 17,
Mhm.
10 and 2, driving really slow, making sure blinkers, all the above. I don't want to tell you right now what I could do. I could probably shave my head, eat a sandwich. Obviously, I don't recommend you guys doing that. And the only reason I say that is just because you're more comfortable. So you do one or two deals. It's not that you're smarter, you're just more confident out there. So you got to go out there and you can never time the market. So I always tell people it's at a good time to get into real estate investing. They say, oh no, it's too hot, right? Too much competition. Oh no, the market's trending down. So the key is you want to see who's telling you that, right? Is it someone with a W-2 job that's not financially set? Is it someone that's an entrepreneur that's doing well? They're going to tell you that, if you're doing deals, the market's always good.
How do you recommend investors, let's say now they saw this conversation and they want to start a side hustle, building up real estate investing, but how can they transition from just being a side hustle to investing full time and being a real estate entrepreneur?
Yeah, so one of the keys is, as I mentioned, it's not a get rich quick thing, right? Just because you do one or two deals, don't quit your job, right? So
Mhm.
what I mean by that is people will notice when you're desperate. I always pick on the car guys, and no offense if you work in the car industry, when you walk to a car dealership, you could feel that your guard's up, like, oh, they're trying to sell me something, which of course they are. It's the same thing for newbie real estate investors. You can almost see the desperation in their eyes. It really is a true numbers game where you got to talk to as many people. So I hear a lot of new investors, oh, I can't really find anything. Well, how many sellers did you talk to? Initially, I spoke to four or five, right? And I always tell everyone that's not enough, right? It's not enough of a sample size. So even though you're working full time, if you're on a limited budget, say you can't do mailings or anything, you got to have software, knock on doors, or right, cold call. You got to keep talking to them, record it. So let me use that loosely. You can't really record people without their knowledge. And at the same time, you want to see what you sound like. We've also used with our students AI, where we role played with the AI as homeowners. So it's just
Wow.
practice. And you're going to realize homeowners are going to ask you I don't know, the same 8 to 10 questions out there. The other thing, as I mentioned, if you get a mentor, leverage their time, experience, and/or money, it's going to speed up the process. And just be, committed to it. So once and especially for newbies, I always get like there's not enough time. What I tell you is, stop scrolling a little bit, cut down on the Netflix. Even if you talk to one homeowner a day, right? Before you know it, it's 30 people. Before you know it, it's 100, it's 200. The other thing is that's for newbies, which I think is really important, is your network, right? We kind of talked about it is there's people in your network that have challenges. So let's say your day job is, I don't know, you work as an accountant. Let's just pick something easy. In the meantime, what you have to get your people in your network realize that you're into real estate. You got to be the real estate guy within your group to fix their problems, right? Where they might have a pre-foreclosure, they might have a probate. Listen in and be around real estate investors. So whether it's meetups, as I said, you just need to be around other investors, like-minded people. And the one big challenge I will tell you, this happened to me, is sometimes it's the people closest in your life that are sometimes like not on board, right? What I mean by that is, oh, they don't see direct results right away. And they're saying, well, you tried that and it didn't work. So don't listen to the naysayers. And you're going to realize when you do one or two deals, they're all of a sudden jumping on the bandwagon, right? They're going to be like,
Mhm.
you got this, or, and so just be consistent is the other big thing I'll tell you.
I love that consistency, being committed. Because
Yep.
there's lots of up and downs in this industry. And I was going to ask you, following up on that, what you think is the biggest challenge in this industry? Because a lot of people can name various things, but you kind of said that. But if you want to elaborate on it, feel free
Yeah,
to.
so definitely commitment, right? Um, be patient. Like that was really hard for me to be patient because it wasn't moving fast enough. Some of the guys, depending on your age, right? So our youngest student got a deal at 17 years old. So imagine knocking on a door and say at 17 saying, "Hey, I want to buy your house," right? So we use, "Hey, my dad and I want to buy this house, and we know, love this neighborhood." So different challenges may happen. Play to your strengths, right? If you're really good on the phone, make those calls. If you're really good in person, make sure you knock on those doors. And if you're not good in person, what I mean by that, knocking on doors or driving for dollars, it's just practice. So I'll leave you with a quick story. The first store I ever knocked on, because I didn't have any money. So I said, I got to go talk to the sellers. I know they're in pre-foreclosure. I knocked on a door. I did things as an adult I'd never done, meaning I didn't introduce myself, which was kind of weird. They opened the door, and you would have thought I worked as an auctioneer. I was like da 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 da, and then I finally, after 2 minutes of just vomiting knowledge, right, that was useless, they just looked at me. I looked at them. I turned around. I walked back to the car in a full sweat, and I was like, I can't do this. And it makes me laugh to even think that that's where I was. To now, it's so easy. So it doesn't matter where you're at. And also, one of the big things is give yourself a break, right? So sometimes living in the world of entrepreneurship is that it's a lonely life and you're just really hard on yourself. Take a deep breath, right? No one knows what's happening. If you fail, not a biggie. No one's going to know.
Practice makes perfect, man.
Practice makes
Appreciate
perfect.
that.
Yep.
Love it. Final question. You've been amazing, Anish. You really have been
Yeah,
saying
no
some
problem.
amazing strategies, great insights, very, very inspiring person. What's one piece of advice you wish every investor would follow? And I know you told us about, Rich Dad Poor Dad as a book. If you have any
Yep.
other podcast, book, or
Yeah.
even
Another one I like is Who Not How.
Mhm.
It's a Dan Sullivan, great book. And the question is usually you ask, how am I going to do this? The answer is, who am I going to get to do this? It really goes into finding the right seat is number one. That's really important. And I forgot the second part of that question. I'm sorry. Was
So the second one is what's one piece of advice you wish every
yeah.
either new investor or, seasoned investor would follow that you would like to share with us today?
So especially specifically in real estate, figure out your exit strategy first, right? So and what I mean by that is, well, if everything went to heck, right? I'm doing a rehab. I put all this money in, the market tanked. Can I rent it out and make money? Right. And also not to be over leveraged. just because you could get the money, don't take the money. And what I mean that again, that negative cash flow, right? Don't buy into like there's all this equity as a short term, and then like I'm losing 500 a month, 1,000 a month, and then all of a sudden the equity goes down, right? So exit strategy is super important. Follow up in there. Also have a plan, right? And my favorite also, everything's not going to be perfect. So for me, being a perfectionist, that was really hard. I was like, oh my gosh, it's not going to look like this. This is what happened. And also, the other one that I think is really, really important, celebrate your wins, as small as they are. You know, hey, you did that. Hey, I knocked on 5 doors. I did better. I wasn't scared this time. I was able to answer those questions. It's important to remember those wins because as human beings, we always think about the things that went wrong, and that's not going to catch you anyway.
Amazing, man. Anish, thank you so much for sharing your insights and experiences with us today. It's been a pleasure having you on Investor One-on-One.
Absolutely, man.
If our investors want to connect with you and learn more
Yeah.
about you, how can they find you?
Yeah. So our website is bpmrea.com. And my email is Anish, Anish, at bpmrea.com. Subscribe. We do a lot of webinars. If you're local, come to our in-person events. We do a lot of workshops. And, our commitment at BPM REIA is real estate investing it made simple, right? Don't
Mhm.
complicate it.
For sure. And to our audience, thank you for tuning in. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay connected for more interviews with the nation's top investors. Till next time, keep investing wisely and stay motivated. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.